digital anthropologist Darren Dure. He joins me on the Zoom line for today. It's not just a regular Tuesday, folks. It's Data Privacy Day, and we say Happy Data Privacy Day to you, Darren, and all those in the field. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Welcome. Good morning.
Before I get into the significance of the day and that, a conversation on data safety and protection, for those hearing about your job title and designation for the first time, what's the role and function of digital anthropologist?
Yeah, so it's not a term that you hear regularly.
Yeah, it's a very interesting job title.
Yeah. So I'm actually, the founder of the Cyber Safety Foundation, and in that we, study how people interact with their digital devices. So anthropology is the study of human beings, and a digital anthropologist is simply someone who studies how human beings interact with digital devices.
Wow, and what is the common thread in this 2025 as it relates to human beings and their devices, which clearly everyone probably have one or two?
The common theme is internet addiction. Raise your hand if you think you're addicted to the internet.
And because of that, it comes also with a layer of protection and awareness, because I'm sure yes, there is lots of good that takes place in this space, but there's lots of data breaches and people taking folks' identity. We have heard of these horror stories. I myself would have been hacked once. Not a good feeling. What's your advice in that regard?
Yeah, the thing is that we use the word internet addiction, and it really means that we're so consumed with using these devices that we kind of forget to put our guards down. So simple things like all of these little pop-ups that say, hey, share your email so that you can get a free anything. But when you actually start sharing this information, too much information about yourself, that's kind of really where we head down that path of sharing too much information, and our privacy really is at the mercy of the internet. So there are two things that we could look at, right, from data privacy perspective. You as an individual sharing too much information, and then a lot of companies ask us even something as simple as going to create an account in a business. You have to present so many different forms of IDs. You ask yourself, what do they do with that information once it's used? So we have to really be careful as to how we share that information. So many sites ask us for, date of birth and email address and physical address. Not all of those fields are actually mandatory. So you just kind of have to be a little bit wary as to, what you share and why you share it. And of course, the real reason why we want to be wary about that is to prevent identity theft.
Yeah, and that indeed, it's a long process to clear yourself. That is extremely stressful for those who would have gone through that. We live in a different time where back in the day we'll go by someone's home and you ask them for water. Now people ask for your Wi-Fi. They ask for your Wi-Fi to get access to the internet so they could stay in touch with family and friends. Now, when we consider where we are as a nation now, yes, I know you said there's that connection between human beings and devices, but are we, let's say, up to the time with some of our regional and international partners in terms of internet awareness and understanding and being able to truly navigate and tap into the true potential of these devices and what's in front of us?
That answer is probably no, and I don't think it's local and specific to the Caribbean region. I think it's worldwide. The internet took off at an exponential rate, and I think anyone was really ready, to deal with it, even from a data protection or data privacy perspective. I know we are trying to get our Data Protection Act, fully out there in Trinidad and Tobago. There are others that actually influence us. You might have heard the term GDPR, which is the Data Protection Act that comes out of the United Kingdom. And that has actually impacted a lot of businesses in Trinidad and Tobago. You have to comply by those laws. So, even though we may not have full legislation here in Trinidad and Tobago and in the Caribbean, we have to be very mindful of, what the other countries across the world, want us to do from a data privacy perspective. So I think that we are getting there, but as the average Joe just sitting down, using a computer or sharing information, you just really need to be mindful as to, what you share and who you share it with. Even something as really simple as sending your, whether it be an ID or your passport picture to, an agent that you might be working with locally over WhatsApp. that information stays there in their WhatsApp account. I doubt they're really going and delete it after. And suppose their phone gets stolen or compromised, that means your information gets compromised as well. So these are all the things that we have to really take into consideration when we think about data privacy and really protecting our identity online. Because, you might think that a stolen identity would probably result in someone hacking your bank account and taking your money. But it could be as simple as someone using your Netflix account, and there are other, minor infractions for data, privacy and data theft. But then, there are really the major ones, that you probably hear about and read about, which would be, financial fraud and so on. But it happens at all different levels.
When you go to a retail store and they ask you for your email, some people feel pressured to give them because obviously we know the store wants to give you all their subscriptions and send brochures and tell you when they have a sale coming up. I guess you have the option to tell them no, you don't really have to, right?
Yeah, you have the option to tell them no, but a simple trick, have multiple email addresses. So you have one email address that's really set for your business sort of communication, things that you might share with the bank and work and so on. And then have that free Gmail that you could just kind of put in there. You're not sharing no private information, but you'll still be able to benefit from the coupons that you might get on Boxing Day.
Understood. Where is AI in this conversation? Because you're looking at what's happening there in the US with DeepSeek and ChatGPT, and I know that's a Chinese platform that's now making its way into the US, and we saw the trends with, of course, ChatGPT and just AI is in the conversation. Is it changing the landscape?
I think it's changed it already, to be honest with you.
It changed already, as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, I think it's changed already. And, we are feeling or experiencing those changes. The way in which these websites or applications so subtly ask us for our data that, you don't even know that you're actually giving it away. And with, AI would actually be able to use little bits of you, right, that you might share in different social media platforms. So you might think, I'm not sharing all of my information on Instagram, I'm not sharing all of my information on TikTok, but you might have one piece of identifying information in one platform and another one another, right? You could use, various AI tools to scrape the entire web and build an entire profile about you, and you'll be able to see exactly how much of you is out there. And I think that's the scary part in terms of how easily it is to really get that information, about you. And there's so many different free websites you could even use. Just go and type in your email address and it'll say, hey, this is where you are in the web, and this is the information that's been associated with you. And someone who has nefarious intentions can actually build an entire profile and really target you as an individual, from an identity perspective.
Let me ask, as we look to wrap things up on the national landscape, with the TSTT cyber report, with the whole talk of it becoming public, that going into the public domain, that level of transparency, you think it could be beneficial, or will it more or less highlight some of the inefficiencies within the system? Just your take on that cyber report and the whole concept of it going public.
Sure. The more the public is aware of these things happening, I think the more we might be concerned about protecting ourselves in the online space. So there are actually mandatory requirements for big companies and organizations in other jurisdictions to report that they've been, under a breach or data has been lost and shared in the dark web as, what we believe may have happened in this particular one. And that way now it actually sort of creates that impression for the individual that, hey, my information is out there, maybe I should go change my passwords. Maybe I need to be a little bit more secure with dealing with information when I, communicate with my telecommunications provider. So I think it's going to have beneficial, use for the public in terms of information, and also, from, the perspective of other organizations and corporations, they'll know, hey, we need to beef up our practices when it comes to data privacy and data protection, cybersecurity, and the whole. So I think it's going to benefit everyone, or, in the long run, definitely.
Fantastic. What's the big plan today for Data Privacy Day as we wrap things up?
Yeah, we're going to have a few conversations. We're going to write out some articles about, being safe on the internet. I'm actually going to focus on this being, a political year in Trinidad and Tobago. The information that we share could actually influence what comes to us on social media, and that could have, far-reaching repercussions in terms of what we see and believe in as it pertains to, these different campaigns and so on. So we kind of get into that area.
Do we need to be extra careful in terms of what we receive? Be knowing that's the election year, and yes, all major political campaigns will put major money to send content, to send stuff to influence that vote. What's your advice in that regard?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely you need to be aware. We have a tendency of just reading the headline and believing it's law, dig a little bit deeper, and, look for multiple sources of the same bit of information. You might see so many different images, memes, articles, things that, defamation of character sort of things, right? With respect to the candidates who might put themselves up. But it might just be present in one particular very obscure website that no one ever heard about, but you're sharing it, it becomes viral, and it's not true. So you have to do a little bit of research, especially when it comes to that information and data being shared towards you. Now, if you keep clicking on a particular type of content, that's the only content you're going to get. So be mindful of that as well. You're navigating in the social media space, and you might find that I'm only seeing information about, a particular color. And it's because that's all you interact with. So you're not going to get a good perspective of the entire landscape. So yeah, that's the unfortunate nature of how what they call the algorithm works. And it's all, driven by data.
That's right. Information and of course misinformation. That's a whole different conversation for a different day.
A whole different one altogether. That's right. Yeah.
Again, happy Data Privacy Day to you, Darren. Thanks for coming on and sharing with us.
Sure thing. You're welcome. Cheers.
That's right. Digital anthropologist. That's, of course, Darren Dure for today, Data Privacy Day. And that conversation about data safety and protection is of paramount importance, very important in this modern time. So hope that we were able to take heed with the advice from Darren, and we'll adjust ourselves going forward in terms of changing the passwords and just being careful as to how we share information online. We come back with your calls and we get into our Digipreneur, more conversations via the digital front. That's happening after 7. See you soon.